Hello everybody and welcome to this week's episode of Analysing Anfield, your tactics and statistics podcast courtesy of the Bloodred channel. Still Josh Williams hosting, Christian's still on his break, and I'm still joined by David Hughes. How are we?
Very still, mate. Yeah, no, I'm good. Thank you.
We're still going. So this week we're going to address Sheffield United, obviously on the weekend, the 1-0 win. It was 1-0, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was 1-0, yeah. Just about that, to be fair.
And then Salzburg during the week, which was a little bit different, I think it's safe to say.
Yeah, there wasn't quite a 1-0, was it?
No. And we've obviously got Brendan Rodgers coming up on the weekend, so we're going to talk about that. So we'll get straight into it, no messing. And I think it was a really tough game at Sheffield United. I think you can safely label this one, for me, as an ugly win. Because we talked about this last week, didn't we, in terms of the difference between an ugly win and a lucky win. And I think this one just edged on the ugly side for me, which is welcomed to an extent.
Yeah, it was. It was a tough game, and for people who would have watched or listened last week, we did say that United are very well drilled, and actually more so than what I expected. I expected them to be a little bit more attack minded this season, and they haven't been, but what they have been is quite compact, and we saw that, at Bramall Lane, and they made it very difficult for Liverpool. I agree. I think Liverpool deserved the victory, but the manner in which the goal come was obviously quite fortunate.
Yeah, definitely.
And obviously, if that doesn't go in, then it's one of those days at the office. But fortunately, it did. A little bit of luck there, but yeah, I agree. I think Liverpool deserved the win overall. Yeah, I was actually, I said to you, didn't I? I was working the game, but I've looked over the more detailed highlights than what you'd have on, say, Match of the Day, and I was quite impressed with how they set up and how they remained pretty compact through the middle. I know it meant that Liverpool had a bit more space out wide, but that's the lesser two evils, isn't it? Either giving the ball to them out there or giving it to the front three, which can normally lead to goals quite easily.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't create a great deal, but what we did create was quite clear cut in certain moments. And at the same time, we obviously prevented them from creating much in terms of clear cut chances, at least at all. So I don't think we were particularly reliant on Adrian. So hence the lucky win, but it seemed hence the ugly win. But it seemed to get the lucky tag because of the goal.
Yeah.
But anyway,
goals decide narratives, as
exactly.
We say.
We said that last week, yeah. But I think Sheffield sets up as, I'm calling them Sheffield, Sheffield United.
Yeah.
In fact, United will call them.
Yeah, United has said we'll push Man United to one side and we'll let Sheffield United take that tag.
Yeah. So they set up as we expected. Ended up forming a back five, 3 midfielders ahead, and then 2 strikers ahead of that. Really well drilled without the ball. We mentioned that although they're inclined on playing and they're inclined on basically playing more football than the likes of Newcastle or Cardiff, they're also really realistic in how they play the game. So I think we saw that without the ball, really, really well drilled, defensively solid. I think Liverpool's main problem, particularly in the first half, was Chris Wilder very clearly, for me, had a plan to allow our defenders the ball, including Trent, including Robertson, let them have as many touches as they want. But then as soon as they decide to progress towards the final third, immediately pressurise them, immediately force them backwards.
Yeah, and aggressive as well with that press when they come to that zone as well.
Yeah, really tight. Almost man marking to an extent. And, as I said, if Firmino did get the tiniest bit of space in the final third in his usual zones, he'd immediately be pressurised, wouldn't be able to turn on the ball. Nothing like that. And we just really struggled not to keep the ball, because we were allowed it for the most part. It was just progressing into the final third was the major problem.
Yeah. It's basically the best way you could explain it, couldn't you? Is the way Liverpool have a higher line and press higher to make that space very short where the opposition, can play through. United do almost a version of that, but instead of pushing high, they're happy to sit deep but create that same sort of situation where there's very little room for teams to play through. Yeah, which is very good, and they did it really well.
Yeah, it didn't really surprise me, you know. It's kind of that realistic, pragmatic side that Chris Wilder's got, which does benefit the team, because obviously he's willing to adjust based on the opponent more so than the likes of Norwich, who will just play their game no matter what. And we struggled considerably more than we did against Norwich in terms of playing through them. We really struggled to play through them. Sheffield United's approach seemed to be, whenever they did get the ball, quickly break through largely the area in which Trent is supposed to be playing. Just any kind of loose balls I picked up on were just almost aimlessly hit in the direction of Trent, with no real teammates there, nothing like that. It was just a case of like, just put the ball over there, keep
in that vicinity, basically.
Yeah, keep testing that zone of the pitch kind of thing. It didn't really pay dividends for them, but I could see why they'd done it. And it was just generally, particularly in the first half, an uncomfortable watch. Wasn't a nice game. I think Guardiola spoke years ago when he was at Bayern. When he first got to Bayern, I don't think he was particularly happy with his team's building from the back. And he said what they were doing, they were forming basically a U-shape with their passing network. So it was going left back, centre back, right back. Right back, centre back, left back. And it was just forming a U-shape, and that was it. Easy to defend against, not threatening at all.
You see that a lot in the Premier League now with sides who are trying to become possession-based teams, aren't they? And I think the best example is and Everton. You know, who are trying to do it, can't quite do it yet. And they perfectly, as you just said there, have that U-shape. Yeah.
The team I've just thought of then with the whole U-shape thing was a Frank de Boer. Crystal Palace. Something like
he basically just tried to drop it from the offset of the season.
Something like outset, 8 matches, 8 losses or something like that. It was with no goals scored.
Yes, didn't score for around 4 or 5 games.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Just go on. I was going to say on Trent, because it's been an ongoing thing, hasn't it? I think it was Sam Maguire who messaged me about it, talking about that right side. That, you know, do you think sides are targeting it? Because some people have had a theory that, and which I actually don't agree with, that Klopp is somehow tactically showing the opposition's sides to that side of the pitch as a on purpose. It's something I don't. Maybe you disagree. I don't see the benefit.
To the right side.
Yeah, I don't see the benefit of that personally, but it does seem that a lot of attacks are built down that side, don't they? I know we've touched on things like avoiding Van Dijk, who's obviously normally on the left side of the defence, but is it because Trent's lacking that, I don't know, that positional know-how? Is that the right term? Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. I mean, this is worth addressing anyway, because I've recently personally joined the Blood Red podcast group on Facebook. I'm getting involved with the
hashtag ad.
Getting involved with the fans. And one of the questions this week was regarding Trent. I just think he's not. I don't think he's as defensively bad as he's perceived to be. And I think he's really unfortunate for club and country. He plays on the weaker side of his defence in both cases, and particularly in terms of Salah, he gets a lot less cover from Salah than Robertson does with Mane, for example. So he is open to exposure at Liverpool, and it's you know, Azpilicueta, for example, is deemed to be having a bad season at the minute. He's not necessarily having a bad season if you actually look at it. It's just a case of, compared to years gone by, he's coping with a lot more exposure, a lot more vulnerability, a lot more demands on his shoulders. We spoke last week, didn't we, about Pep Guardiola and why he requires top players and the best around.
Yeah.
And it's because of the demands he places on their shoulders.
I think in this game particularly as well, you know, with O'Connell, who's like the overlapping centre back, isn't he, for United, which we spoke about, didn't we, again on the show. there was times where he was getting, there was overloads on his side, really, he didn't have the support. But that being said, here's a question for you. I'll be interested to see what other people said in the comments or replies to the show. If Trent wasn't as good as he is in attack, right? Say he was half as good as he is. I don't know how you try and gauge that.
Yeah.
Just for this scenario, would he be a starter for Liverpool on his defensive capabilities? Or is that role more important offensively than defensively now?
It's a good question.
And I'll put you on the spot there.
So if he was the same defensively but half as good
in attack,
yeah,
would he still be a starter?
I don't think he'd be good enough for Liverpool, no.
Really, yeah.
No.
So then
it's tricky. It's really tricky because you obviously can't gauge that. But
so then, would you agree then that it's more important to be a good attacker now as a fullback than a good defender? Or maybe just because it's Liverpool, how good they are, that they don't
for Liverpool, especially considering their current system, you really do have to be a good attacker. You do have to be good on the ball. Trent is unbelievable on the ball.
Yeah, I agree.
Unbelievable.
Even if he isn't the best defensively, because of what he does bring in attack, it just makes him almost undroppable, doesn't it? I know he does.
He's like a deeper De Bruyne.
Yeah.
He's like
very good show.
He's like a modern day. If David Beckham was to play in the modern day, he wouldn't really have a role.
No,
because his type of winger doesn't really exist in the game anymore at the top level.
Yeah, you're right.
So he'd probably be a fullback,
Yeah.
In the mould of Trent, whereby he's not the best defensively, but in possession, he's such a threat.
Yeah, I agree. You could probably imagine Beckham kind of hovering between like the middle third and the attacking third out wide, receiving the ball from the like outside forward, so to speak, and just whipping them in all the time.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good comparison, actually, to be honest. I've took us down a rabbit hole there, sorry mate, but this is kind of what happens on the show, doesn't it?
No, it's good. We welcome that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the overall XG throughout the game was, there wasn't much in it. There wasn't much to separate it, but I think the difference was, and the reason we deserved the win for me was we didn't create much at all. But what we did create, really sporadic, every half an hour or so, clear-cut chances. We had the Mane one where Van Dijk hit it over the top, and that was the real big one for me. And then just before I think the first half ended, Mane hit the post. Absolutely should have scored.
Yeah, by his standards, the form he's in as well.
I think if you put them in, you'd 2-0 up going in at half time. So although it's a tough game, you've got the lead, and I just think it would have been a different game. But our finishing, doesn't usually happen, made the game a little bit tougher for us, and we ended up getting a breakthrough through a fluke, really. I think the lad in goal is contacted to Man United as well.
Yeah, he was a very good goalkeeper in the Championship last year. He was actually probably the best, but yeah, it was a bit of a sprinkle of sweetness, wasn't it, really, that he was United, and probably will be United's number one day, so he'll probably get a little bit of stick for that in the future. Yeah,
but I think it was very much an ugly win for me, although the goal was lucky. It's weird how each week, apparently the Chelsea game was deemed as ugly, wasn't it?
We basically said a little bit lucky rather than an ugly win.
Yeah, but the actual the common narrative seemed to get those two switched around, so it's interesting the way that works.
I suppose the important thing is as well, both wins.
Yeah, definitely. But I think, on Sheffield United, I expect them to do well throughout the season. They'll be a tricky team to face them. They'll give City a game when they have to go to Bramall Lane themselves. Really, really well drilled without the ball, very physical. And one of the reasons I think Liverpool came away with the result was because of the performance of Van Dijk, which I thought was unbelievable on the day. I thought he was imperious. I spoke a couple of weeks ago to Christian. We spoke for the first time really at length about Van Dijk, and I said he's what you make in a lab. If you're making your perfect centre back, you make him in a lab, because he's the perfect defender for every scenario really. If you need to soak pressure, if you need to fight, if you need to be good on the ball, if you need to play with a high line, whatever it may be, he can do it. And I think the away trip to Sheffield United and the away trip to Burnley as well recently, he's been a major reason why we've come away with 3 points on both times, because he's able to cope with that physical threat.
Yeah.
He's able to win aerial duels, not just win them, but win them whereby his header will fall to a teammate.
Yeah,
he's able to control the direction of his headers.
Yeah, I agree, yeah.
So I just think it was important to give him a note, because, as I said, he was honestly ridiculous on the day, I thought.
Yeah. Well, it was also, in that game, he was a lot busier than he usually is, isn't he? I noticed only this season. Although we're coming into 7 league games now, so we are getting a decent sample. Plus there's cup games in there, and he had 20 defensive duels. He normally only has around 12, 13. Come out on top in 16 of them. And to be honest with you, we know, don't we, Wisecout can be a little bit
weird, yeah.
Weird. So I wouldn't mind looking at them in more detail, because from what I've seen, I can't remember them really losing out on any.
No. I just think when Sheffield United were building these dangerous moves, he was the man to intercept before they materialised into something more dangerous.
Yeah.
And then if they were to pose an aerial threat, he'd be the man to sweep them up too. And then in terms of creating the first clear-cut chance for Mane,
yeah, he was there.
He's the man for that as well. So he was just honestly unbelievable.
Yeah,
incredible player. Certainly deserved a mention for me. So anyway, we'll leave Sheffield United there, escape with the win and never look back. Yeah. And we'll move on to the more entertaining game of the week, which I think it's safe to say we got spot on.
Yeah, we did, yeah. I was feeling quite smug at full time. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. I think it ended 9-6, didn't it?
Yeah.
No, it was 4-3 on the day. Liverpool versus Salzburg.
Yeah. Just for context, by the way, the reason we're feeling so smug is because me and Josh did basically predict this kind of chaotic game with loads of goals, and it turned out to be that.
Yeah, I think Salzburg were exactly what I expected them to be. I think for the first half an hour or so, they were maybe hitting too long. But, they generally epitomised for me what a Red Bull club's about, in terms of very vertical, in terms of going front to back very quickly. No sideways passing, no building the play, nothing like that. Just A to B quickly. Very brave on the ball, pressing, and goals. Yeah. And I think that's exactly what we saw. Yeah. Which is, even if that's your game, it's difficult to actually bring that at a place like Anfield on a European night. But
yeah,
it was a really entertaining game, especially for the neutrals, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was what we expected, wasn't
it? Yeah, spot on. I think I totally agree with everything about the high energy, the pressing game. Interestingly, I noticed that their pressing numbers, I think the PPDA was like just over 13, which standalone isn't that impressive, but at Anfield it is. And I think only Barcelona in like the last 6 or 7 months, I only scanned over the data, but only Barcelona have got close to that or better at that, which shows the kind of belief that they are going into the game. Because I said to you, didn't I, it will be interesting to see how this exciting, energetic team will perform against an elite side like Liverpool at Anfield, because domestically they don't face that sort of competition, and they haven't been in the Champions League for a while either. So there's a lot of Europa League fixtures, but not the elite Champions League fixtures. And I think that first half an hour they did show, as the manager alluded to after the game, they did show a little bit too much respect to Liverpool. I think at one point, with about half an hour gone or 25 minutes gone, they were averaging allowing something like 47 passes, Liverpool, before pressing to win the ball at one point, which is bonkers, really. Too much respect. But it all seemed to change the minute the formation could change and when Liverpool got the third.
Yeah, well, I think it was very much, we say this most weeks, but it was very much a game of two halves. This one, this was crazy. This was first half, Liverpool 1.45 XG compared to 0.4, and then second half, Liverpool 0.97 XG compared to 1.5. And the weird thing is, in both halves, I think each team took the same amount of shots in both halves, But the difference was in the first half, Liverpool had all the clear-cut chances. In the second half, Salzburg had them all.
Yeah.
So it was a weird game.
Yeah, it was.
We dominated the game initially for me. First 45 minutes, first half an hour was almost too easy, I thought.
Yeah. I'd say first half hour, I thought that 15 minutes before half time, they come into it and become, especially when they got the goal. I think what was the exact time when he changed to a diamond? I'm pretty sure it was around just after the third goal.
Yeah, it was. It was maybe 30 to 45 minutes in and around that period.
Yeah,
but it didn't really have much of an influence until after half time. That was the key bit, I think, for me anyway.
Yeah, well, the only reason I'm disagreeing slightly is I noticed the attacks per minute peaked at about 0.74 or something along those lines, which was the highest they had in the 15-minute segment throughout the 90 minutes. But yeah, I agree. It's still, even though they pulled one back and you could see they were growing into the game a little bit, I do agree that there wasn't really, you couldn't see Liverpool losing grip of the game the way they did early in the second half. No,
well, I think looking at that, those figures I've just mentioned there in terms of Liverpool just steamrolling the opposing team in the first half. For me, it was like looking at two teams with very, very similar styles of play, but one team just more evolved with better players and a better overall system and a higher ceiling and everything. Yeah. Both teams were trying to impose the same game, similar games. Liverpool just had better everything, which is understandable considering the level Liverpool are on in terms of the Austrian champions against the European champions. It's just different levels there. Salzburg for me just hitting long too much, rather than playing, not necessarily playing out, but if you're hitting long up against Van Dijk, for example, who's just heading it back every time, you just maybe have to have a bit more confidence on the ball, play a bit more intricately, rather than hitting long every time whenever they get possession. So Liverpool were just able to come out, keep coming. And I think the second half, it sounds like one of those cliche descriptive words that you'd use to describe why a result got away from a team, but it did seem as though it was complacency. Yeah. To me, you can look at all the tactical aspects in the world, but it did just seem as though Liverpool just took the foot off the gas, and I felt it myself, if I'm honest. Even when it came back to 3-3, I didn't really feel bothered. I still thought we'd win. Yeah. I still felt fine, didn't feel under threat, didn't think we'd lose it. It was a weird game. Yeah. And we actually wrote about Klopp's development, didn't we, a couple of weeks ago? His 4-year development, I think it's been. And one of the turning points, I think, in his career at Liverpool was the 4-3 with City at Anfield and the 3-3 with Sevilla away. We led by, I think, 3 goals in both games, but ended up scraping over the line against City and scraping away with a point from Sevilla. And it was because we couldn't control games. We had no control over games. Game management was terrible. Yeah. And I think since we've got away from that, we've improved. But this was in the old Liverpool mould, I thought. Yeah. Not being able to control games. Klopp mentioned after the game that it was maybe a case of some players trying to slow it down and other players behaving frantically and crazily. That was a direct quote from Klopp, which I thought was interesting, but it was just a really chaotic game, I thought. Yeah, I also think it coincided with not the best performance defensively for individuals. And I said to you, didn't I? I know we've just waxed lyrical about him. And equally, I don't actually think he had a bad game. As I said to you, it's when your standards are so high, if they're remotely a little bit less, you notice it with elite players. And that was, for me, what I'd seen probably Van Dijk's worst performance. I don't necessarily mean in terms of because he got turned for the first goal, because that was some really good attack and play. I just felt he just did that dominance that we were talking about at Sheffield United didn't feel there, and how good they were in attack made it easier to expose. And then Gomez didn't play great, did he? He was a little bit rusty. Yeah, well, he's one of the points, isn't he? I mean, we might as well get onto it now. I think Gomez, he just seemed a bit you could tell he hadn't played many matches. I thought you could tell he wasn't in that. You know, it's one of them intangible words, but momentum. You could tell he didn't have that momentum behind him. Whereby he's played a couple of games. There was a moment in the second half where a ball was hit into Liverpool's final third, an aerial ball, and he completely misjudged where the ball was going to lie. Got ahead of the ball and it ended up bouncing behind him. It was just weird.
You wouldn't expect that normally, would you?
No.
I also wonder if the really standout performances of Matip this year is just having a slight psychological impact on him, because it was always expected it's going to be Van Dijk, Gomez. Before the injury, Gomez is being phenomenal. He's going to, it's going to be them too. And I don't know. It's just Matip's kind of really established himself in that role, hasn't he? And actually, he's been as good as, if not better than, Van Dijk past this season. He's one of the top-ranking centre-backs in some key areas in the Premier League so far this season. And I just wonder if now Gomez feels that more pressure to perform, and when you've got that added with the fact that you are rusty in terms of match practice, I wonder if that's an influence on his performance. I know it's only one game or a couple games.
One narrative I do definitely need to address, though, is I think an obvious takeaway from that match is that people are inclined to say we really missed Matip. I think if Matip played, it still would have been a chaotic, crazy game. He would have influenced.
I don't agree with that myself. Yeah, I mean, I don't agree with that opinion, not yours.
Yeah,
I wouldn't dare disagree, Joe.
He will have influenced certain situations. I think Matip. I think he will have had more control about his game than Gomez did. I think Gomez was a little bit erratic in certain moments. Few misjudged errors. Maybe that need to overdo it to almost impress, rather than doing the simple thing which Matip does really well. But I don't think if Matip plays, we win 4-0 or something like that. I think we still will have been in for a tough game. Salzburg would have still changed the system and caused us problems. We will have still been a little bit complacent into the second half. So I'm not having that one personally. But I do think at the moment Joe Gomez just does seem a little bit unsure in his decisions he's making. A little bit hesitant every now and then. And it's a little bit uncharacteristic of him, to be honest, because he's generally quite assured in his game.
How old is Gomez now?
Young.
Yeah, I mean, precise.
That's worth checking, yeah. But that's definitely worth saying, though, that he's got plenty of time to get Matip out the 11 and become Liverpool's first starter.
But this is, he's 22. Yeah, this is what I mean. But I just wonder if when still as a young lad, with that narrative of now people saying, well, this is the established two, and you've got to come in now and break into that team rather than the position being open for you when you're fit again. It's just, I wonder if that just change in narrative does impact his performance. You touched on something then about trying too hard type thing. We'll see. As I said, it's still early days, isn't it? He's still coming back and he hasn't played a lot of football, so can you really make any solid conclusions? Probably not, but it'll be one to watch when he does play over the coming weeks. Yeah.
Probably not right to be too critical, because as I said, it was a really tricky opponent to come up against. I think, put it this way, he's played twice in the Premier League. He's played 3 times this season from the start, as far as I'm aware. Opening game of the season against Norwich. Norwich are very similar to Salzburg. Both willing to have a go. Both willing to play through Liverpool more than other sides would. So naturally, you're going to look at the defence and think it's shakier than usual, even if it might not be. It's just coming up against a more attacking opponent.
Yeah.
And in the League Cup, it was obviously MK Dons, which even then, I must admit, he wasn't great. But I do think in that moment he almost felt a little bit above his teammates in that game, I thought, because he was playing with a gang of second strings, really, and I don't think he perceived himself to be that. So maybe, that need to impress kind of thing. But, generally, do think we called the game quite well. 4-3, crazy, intense, 11 shots each in total, 5 on target each in total. But difference being Liverpool just had more clear-cut chances. Liverpool had an overall higher XG as a result. And I showed you before, didn't I, that Liverpool shot map for the match. It was your ideal shot map, really. It was all your shots were inside the box, all fairly central, in and around the penalty spot, and they're frequently scored. Do you know what as well? We haven't actually mentioned. Did you see Robertson's goal?
Yeah.
What a goal!
It was. It was a
unique goal.
The play was fantastic. Two fullbacks combining, and the finish was like striker-esque, wasn't it?
Yeah. But to go from one side of the pitch like that so quickly, it was almost Pep-esque in terms of switching the play.
Yeah,
using that overload kind of thing.
I wonder if that is something that they've been trying and just we've kind of missed it, or not, or it's going to be something that they do continue to do, because the way they constantly switch the play between themselves, they must link more than any other fullbacks in the Premier League by far, in terms of direct passing links.
Yeah,
and I just wonder if either they've been attempting that for a while, I might look into it actually, or if they will be now, because it come off beautifully last night, and it's difficult to track as a defender. I think that run coming in.
Yeah, well, I think Pep Linders said once, what's your ideal goal? And he said, my ideal goal is when a fullback sets up another fullback.
Yeah,
so
of course he did, by the way.
It was exactly that.
Yeah.
Almost in that total football mould, whereby, if you've got the ball, everyone's an attacker. If you haven't got the ball, everyone's a defender.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Just quickly before we move on,
go on.
What's your opinion on? I know we spoke about them in length, but Salzburg in terms of the group dynamic of the group, the Champions League group. Do you think they have a shot at getting out of it?
I do think they got a shot. Yeah, definitely. I mean, Napoli played Genk yesterday and drew 0-0.
Yeah, which is a bad result for
battered them.
Yeah.
I must say. If you look at the XG,
was it something like two upwards? Was it?
I think it was around 3, and
3.
Loads of about 3 or 4 big chances really at the penalty spot that should be. I don't know what happened. I didn't watch it myself, but they should have won. But the fact that Napoli now have 4 points, Liverpool have 3, Salzburg have 3, and Salzburg have got to face Napoli home and away. That's a good Salzburg team. They can cause the team problems. So I do think Liverpool will get through. I don't think.
No, yeah. If anyone's going out, I must stress, I think it's between Salzburg and Napoli. I don't think Liverpool, for me, have already played the hardest. Well, probably. No, yeah, hardest game was Napoli away for me. I think Salzburg will be tough away, but that could suit Liverpool more. I think that game. Yeah,
well, one thing worth saying is we've got Salzburg away, the last fixture of the group, and Christian, who's usually obviously hosting the show, did tweet yesterday that. And, it made a lot of sense. Liverpool, above all, needs to make sure that on that last fixture, we're already through, really, because you don't want to be going there needing some sort of result.
Yeah, that's
hostile
true.
Hostile ground.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
And I think if that fixture yesterday was in Salzburg and they get back to 3-3, different story a little bit, you know what I mean? And it can happen in those environments.
We'll see. It's a good group anyway for the neutral, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Good side. Very enjoyable match. Hopefully you'll keep calling them like that for the future. So we'll move on anyway to the one and only Brendan Rodgers. I've been looking forward to this chat because Liverpool's general fan base has always, for a number of years, seemed really, really split on this man. So we'll talk about him at length. We've got a fair amount of time to do so. And we'll probably upset many people because, as I said, he's right down the middle with a lot of Liverpool fans. So, what are your general thoughts on Rodgers? Because he's at present receiving quite a bit of praise because of what he's doing at Leicester, which we'll get into.
Yeah. Initially, I mean, an overview, I said to you, I really like him as a manager. I think he's got a few flawed characteristics. But I really like him, and I think, although for all its downsides Scottish football has, it definitely helps a manager to develop a winning mentality that he has been fortunate enough to have at Celtic in winning trophy after trophy after trophy. So I think we're seeing a better version of Brendan Rodgers at Leicester than maybe, no, actually I'm being harsh, but we're seeing a more evolved version at Leicester, I think, than what we saw at Liverpool. Maybe he was a little bit more raw and more player dependent. But I do like him. I think he's tactically fluid. You know, he tries. I hate this term, but I can't think of a better way to box it. He tries to play the right way, so to speak, or pleasing on the eye way of football. And yeah, as a manager, I am a fan. I think he's at a really good club to do well.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, what I've got written down on that, just in terms of generic thoughts, is that great coach, you know, top coach in terms of training behind the scenes and things like that. Obviously very experimental regarding tactics, trying new things, testing new roles and all that sort of stuff. You know, thinking in a strategic way. Very modern in his approach to the game, his outlook on the game. But as you say, I think he suffers a bit from his ego. It gets in the way sometimes from particularly Liverpool fans, because I think we had a similar period, in fact, to Everton when Martinez was in charge. Because they're both prone a little bit to, what's the word?
Both smoke up one's bottom.
Yeah. I
can't remember if on a PG show or not.
Yeah, that's a polite way of putting it. Exaggerating, I think we'll say.
Yeah.
And obviously I think Klopp, for example, I think is more inclined, I tweeted this a couple of days ago, I think he's more inclined to admit when he's not an expert on something.
Yeah.
And he'll let someone else do it. He'll just empower whoever is an expert. You do it. Whereas Rodgers is just a bit more inclined to say, I know best, I think, kind of vibe.
Yeah.
But I think his current form, though, is the reason he's largely a talking point at the minute. Obviously, they just beat Newcastle 5-0, which we will get onto. But I think it's an interesting talking point because, you know, Leicester's success at the minute, I mean, third in the league.
Yeah.
You haven't won any
relative success.
Is this because of Rodgers, or is he benefiting from the superb recruitment that's happened before he got there, sort of thing? Because it's that age-old argument, that statement whereby you're only as good as your players. That's certainly my belief. I've come full circle with that.
Yeah.
Don't know about yourself. I've been into football analysis for a couple of years now. And when I first got into it, I was really tactically focused. I was massive on tactics, and I still am, don't get me wrong, but...
They play a part, don't they? But they're not...
Yeah, but I've realised gradually with time that no matter how good your tactics are, no matter how good your performance is, as a coach, you are just fully reliant on the individual quality of the players that you've got.
Yeah.
And Rodgers just came into a squad that's really well balanced in all areas. Young, offensive, all them quality, mobile, all them qualities you want. And I think he's benefiting from it.
Yeah. I mean, you know, controversially, and it's a player we were going to touch on, so I'm jumping the gun a little bit, but I just think he's a really good example. You know, I think tactically he can make mistakes, and I think if we've spoke very highly of him now, so just flipping the coin a little bit. I found watching them and studying them this season that there's been a lot of examples of him trying to shoehorn all those quality individuals into the starting 11.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah,
and it's made them at times very unbalanced. And the best example is Madison's been playing a lot on the left.
Yeah, I was going to mention this.
Oh, was you? Yeah. It's just that I studied it recently for a piece I did for Leicester. Where Chilwell was basically getting isolated, and he's one of the best.
I wrote a piece for Leicester too on a similar thing, but I didn't mention Chilwell though. Mine was related to Chowdhury. Chowdhury was playing in the centre without the ball.
You think we talk about this stuff, and yeah,
you would.
Yeah.
No, Chowdhury was, from what I've seen, Chowdhury was playing in the centre without the ball.
Yeah.
With Madison on the left without the ball.
Yeah.
And then when they assumed possession, Madison would come inside, Chowdhury would go on the left. I can see the intent in terms of having a solid defensive battler without the ball in the middle.
Yeah.
But then once you've got possession and you put Chowdhury on the left, he's offering virtually nothing. Well, you put Chowdhury as your left as your left winger, left-sided attacker. What are you expecting
exactly?
from him?
And part of Madison's game is he drifts into unoccupied spaces. That's what he's good at, isn't it? So he's not going to maintain that position on the left, so he'll often make, as you just touched on there, that run more centrally, or at times I've actually seen him make a run to the right flank when there's already a right-sided player out there and possession might be with the left back. And that's not so much a criticism as Madison, because that's just how his game works. But then you've got one isolated player in the left back with around 5 or 6 opposing players between him and his closest pass. It's ludicrous, really. And as I said, I think that's the problem he's having now. He's having to trying to shoehorn so many good players into one side, and tactically they're very, very unbalanced. And I think they're good, but I'm not sure if they're as good as people are getting carried away with this season.
No, I agree, but I just think, like, considering, for example, Emery or Marco Silva going into those clubs, they've obviously arrived whereby their squads are in turmoil to an extent. There's no balance there, top heavy to an extent. And I think Rodgers has gone into a place whereby the recruitment's clearly very well organised. The players can be trusted. The players have got good individual quality. And, I reeled off a Valverde quote a couple of months ago. Obviously the Barcelona head coach. And he said, I think he was speaking to the New Financial Times or someone like people like that. And he said in no sport is the head coach as reliant on his players as in football, because once that whistle goes, the players have to take their own decisions and make their own actions for 45 minutes at a time. No timeouts, nothing like that. You get 15 minutes with them in the middle of the match, that's it. So you are heavily reliant on your players. So, I do think Rodgers is doing a good job. Do think he's a good coach, definitely. Do think he's playing about with his formations at the minute. I think he's played all kinds, hasn't he? He's played 4-1-4-1. He's played a Christmas tree formation and now.
Yeah. I think he brackets favours initially starting with like a 4-1-4-1, doesn't he? But as you said, it's, I mean, which to an extent is good. He adapts maybe to the opposition, but I think sometimes although he's not at Emery levels, if you can start becoming too fluid almost, and you lose structure a little bit, don't you, in the side?
Yeah. Like I think just on the whole, benefiting from individual players and being reliant on your individual players. We'll use the Newcastle game as an example. Because, based on that performance, obviously Newcastle had 10 men as well for a large period. But based on Leicester's XG on the day, so based on the shots that they took, shots that they generated, they only had an XG of about 1.6, under 2 XG in most cases, based on most models. And I think if you're scoring 5 off that, you've got that suggests good finishing quality, really. That suggests that players have been able to finish relatively difficult chances from unrealistic areas. So I do think, considering the XG and considering Newcastle had 10 men, I think 5-0 really flattered Leicester. I don't think it was particularly accurate. I don't think it's anything particular for Liverpool to worry about in the upcoming fixture.
No.
And Leicester, surprisingly, when you look at the numbers, they've come across relatively conservative this season, if you actually look at it, haven't you?
Yeah, well, I mean, I did have a little scan, and just short of 40% of the goals they've scored this season came against Newcastle, which says a lot, really, doesn't it? They're not high scoring, and maybe not as free flowing in front of goal, which goes back maybe to the point we were just talking about, how tactically they are a little bit all over the place because he's trying to get that balance that he hasn't got yet.
Do you know what though? Rodgers is generally surprisingly safe, at times. He's perceived as this attacking coach and things like that, which he has got. By the way, off that one season, that comes back to the players thing I've just mentioned. Obviously, the whole Rodgers thing, people are inclined to say it's because of Suarez.
Yeah.
It's because of Suarez and things like that, right? Yeah, it might have been to a large extent, but that is always the case. That's always going to be the case. You will always be reliant to an extent on your players. Do you think Klopp's reliant on Van Dijk? Of course he is.
Okay, yeah.
Do you think he's reliant on Alisson? Just so happens that Rodgers had one player really that was considerably above the rest. So I think although Rodgers will have been reliant on Suarez to an extent, that's fine. That happens. That's what usually goes on.
That's what good recruitment's meant to get you, isn't it? That's why you try and do it. You try and recruit well.
Yeah. Do you think Pep Guardiola was reliant on Lionel Messi when he scored, what was it, 90 in a calendar year or something like that?
It was, yeah.
So yeah, I think that was an important point to make.
No, it is a really good point. Even the basic, he's walking to the side with a 15, 20 goal season striker, Vardy, who still is doing that. Like I keep waiting for Vardy just to have a huge drop off, and it's probably around the corner, but it hasn't happened yet. And they're really hard to find. Like you can't think of that many top class forwards who are just scoring as many goals off not many chances than James Vardy. And take out you like Liverpool's and City's. I'm talking outside really out the top six. And he's one of the few teams who's walked into this ready-made striker, and that helps massively, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, just based on those numbers that I've just mentioned, looking at Leicester's data and things like that in terms of being conservative, what I've got them down as is, at the minute, quite strangely, a good defensive team, but bad on the offensive side of the game, which is a little bit weird considering they lost Harry Maguire. Should be a little bit shaky and good going forward considering Rodgers' perception, but they're not that.
No. But what's it? The guy, I can never pronounce his name. You have to help me. Is it Soyuncu, the Turkish?
Soyuncu, yeah.
Yeah, he's played really well actually since he's come in.
Yeah, he has. Yeah,
and Johnny Evans is weirdly in the form of his life, so that's eased the Maguire concerns. But yeah, anyway, carry on. Sorry, I'm a fan of him. I wanted to give him a nod.
Yeah, in terms of XG against Leicester, they're the second best in the league. They don't at the minute. They don't tend to face many clear cut shots at all, really, and they've faced the third fewest shots as well. So it's generally quite tricky to create chances against Leicester, clear cut chances and things like that. They're quite good at shutting you out in that regard. But then, surprisingly, on the offensive side of the game, they're only above Villa, Palace and Newcastle for XG. But they've shot the 7th most in the league. So what does that tell us? That tells us that in terms of XG per shot, Leicester's is terrible. So the bottom of the league for that, for XG per shot. In other words, they might be shooting, but their shots are not clear cut at all. They're never clear cut.
Low quality.
Yeah, low quality shots from unrealistic areas. So that bodes well for Liverpool.
Yeah.
Somewhat strange for a youthful Rodgers managed Leicester team that many will who've just scored 5 as well against Newcastle.
Yeah.
Because it's maybe not what the common perception is. But Liverpool this weekend really are coming up against a good defensive team that haven't really got a great deal in attack, certainly based on the numbers at least. Obviously we're only 8 games in now.
7 I think.
Yeah. So it'll be an interesting match.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to see how. See, the only thing is with Leicester, if you compare them, say Sheffield United, they have a lot of the same players from the season of the Championship. They're known for they're well organised, well drilled. I can't, even though they're performing quite well defensively, I can't really see Leicester putting that same sort of defensive performance, which is me just in agreement really at the point you're trying to make, that it's going to be a little bit. It's going to be bode well for Liverpool, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, it remains to be seen really at the minute whether it's intentional. Do you know what I mean? Whether they're intentionally being a bit sure at the back, maybe to mentally get over the Maguire loss.
Yeah.
To show that, okay, we can deal with his loss, we can cope without him kind of thing. Or whether he hasn't, he's been inclined to attack more, and it just hasn't went that way. Or maybe it's been a case of the fixtures. I know they've played Chelsea, haven't they? They've played United, and they've played Spurs as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
So maybe it's
two
due
or
to the
three
fixtures.
of them were away as well.
Yeah, maybe it's due to the fixtures, but it is a little bit weird. And people relating it maybe to facing Leicester and Salzburg in the same week, that they're similar, but at the minute they're really not.
No,
not at all.
I said to you, didn't I, when we nipped out earlier to get something sweet, and I just can't. I think a lot of people are expecting something explosive from this game, and I don't actually see it. I can't see that happening.
I think
it'll be a lot more conservative than people realise.
But the thing is, if Rodgers does go out with the conservative approach, I think it'll go badly for him. I think he'd benefit at Anfield. It sounds crazy, but I think he'd.
Attack.
When I say attack, I just mean, bravery on the ball. Try to actually play through his commit men forward and that kind of thing, which is obviously easier said than done. But if he is going to play within, if they are going to play within themselves with a bit of fear, I just can't see it going well for them.
It's just that's I could be proven wrong. They might go all out for it. I don't know. We'll see. But just my opinion, I think this one's getting built to be explosive fireworks. I can't see it, and I think more so with Liverpool getting a bit of a wake up call yesterday about that sort of fixture. I think they won't be as easily exposed to it either. We'll see. It'll be interesting to see how aggressive they press the ball, because they're one of the most aggressive sides in the Premier League, aren't they?
Yeah, I think it's the same with Liverpool as well. But obviously, considering Vardy, that the obvious major threat that Vardy poses is if you play a high line, he's obviously as dangerous as anything in behind. He's one of the best strikers I've ever seen, I think, in terms of dealing with that a delivery that came over the top.
It's just a perfect outlet, isn't he? All the time,
he's just unbelievable when he's presented with
down over the top, perfect.
If he's latching onto a ball that's just been hit over the top, even if it's a half chance, he just maximises it every single time. Really impressive, and he's done it a couple of times against Liverpool as well. I remember when he won the league, he lobbed Simon Mignolet from about 30 yards or something.
Stunning goal, that.
Yeah, not sure if it would happen with Alisson and goal like. But other than Jamie Vardy, I think it's worth mentioning James Madison, because every now and then he's occasionally linked with Liverpool. He's obviously been linked with United as well. I'm not sure if you wrote about that recently.
Yeah, I've spoken a couple of times.
But what are your general thoughts on him, and particularly in relation to possibly being suitable to Liverpool in the future or anything like that?
I really like him. I like his ability to roam around the final third. I think he's really clever at picking up pockets of space. Not that they're the same player, but just in this sense, he's a bit like Firmino in the sense that he can find those little pockets even in really compact areas, which I really like. I think he's very good with the ball as well. I don't know where he get into this current Liverpool side.
I'm not sure he's a Liverpool player personally.
Yeah.
I don't think he is. And
that's not me being negative about him. I say I really like him. I think he could play a higher level than Leicester, but I'm just not sure how he get in Liverpool.
Yeah, I agree. Really, I think he's probably at a higher level than Leicester.
Yeah.
I think generally his numbers benefit a lot from the fact he takes set pieces.
Yeah, he does, yeah.
Obviously his expected assist numbers are good because of that. Takes all the deliveries. He scores plenty of goals from free kicks, so he benefits a lot from that.
I wonder how that translates with like non-set piece XG expected assists and stuff. And it's probably worth checking that out actually at some point.
Yeah, it probably is. But he's generally a creative player in the traditional sense, at least. But I'm not sure he's as much of a threat. As threat as people make him out to be in open play.
Yeah, he's like a Sigurdsson character.
A little bit, yeah, he is a little bit. Obviously a good player, but the only player I can remotely compare him with at Liverpool is Lallana.
Yeah,
maybe if Lallana goes, we'll get Madison.
Would you think he'd be an upgrade on Lallana?
He'd be an upgrade on Lallana, but he'd only be useful for us against the weaker teams that would be expected to be, particularly at Anfield, like a Shaqiri type.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure, considering Leicester would charge about 80 million plus for him, I'm not sure he'd be worth that.
Yeah, I was about to say the price you pay to have to get him in, it just wouldn't be worthwhile.
Yeah, I think he'd be worth that for maybe United, but not for Liverpool. We haven't got the void. We haven't got an £80 million void there for him.
I agree, mate.
So, to round up generics, to round up all the comments we've made, verdict, what do you think?
Yeah, I can't see past Liverpool. The only thing is, I'm not sure if Liverpool can just continue a 100% record. I think it's really difficult in the Premier League to do so, as we've seen. But I just can't see them not winning this one. I'm going to go 3-1 Liverpool.
3-1. I'm going to go 2-0, I think. Possibly 3, depending on if he turns up playing with fear.
2 or 3? Go on, I'll put you on the spot.
3.
Okay.
Oh, no, I don't know. It's tricky. We'll see. It really depends on whether he comes conservative or not. Because if he does, we'll just steamroll him, I think. We'll just press them into the ground. And it's not good. It won't be good for them. So, this is possibly Dave's last week. We have no idea yet because we're yet to hear from Chris. Next week we'll be back on the Tuesday. Me and Dave are attending StatsBomb on a Thursday. StatsBomb conference in London. So we'll be back on a Tuesday. Unsure whether it'll be Dave or Christian alongside me. But
maybe both.
Maybe both, yeah. But regardless, make sure you tune in. Thanks for joining us. Thanks, Dave.
Cheers.